What's up, robots? So recently, as I'm sure some of you are aware, I released a BuddyBot video where I could hit 58k damage with the summons. Now in that video I stated that obviously it's not as OP as it looks because it took me 8 hours to scale that up. Now there seems to be some confusion in the community thinking I did some bug that is outside the realms of possibility to do during a normal run, and that BuddyBot is absolutely fine and completely balanced and is fine to use. However, unfortunately, I didn't release the exact information on how the bug works, so it's just not true. Now, if you use BuddyBot regularly throughout a normal run, its damage will scale above the point where it should be, that is just like reasonable or balanced. The reason I didn't explain this is because I didn't want to put the devs into an awkward situation where they felt like they had to rush to fix this. I'm fairly sure they are now have replicated it and are ready to fix it, and it'll probably be going live soon. So I don't mind releasing the information too much, just to clear up some information that BuddyBot might start to feel a bit weaker after the patch. Because the bug in question works every time you use BuddyBot. If you are using BuddyBot to place turrets, or the fantastic version because it doesn't work in the normal version, but if you are using BuddyBot to place turrets, you are using the bug, because that's all it is placing a turret. Now if you're not leveling up BuddyBot, you will see less return, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to record a video of me using BuddyBot regularly in a normal run, and you'll see that I'm probably going to be reaching about 600 damage without crits, which a summon shouldn't be able to do. Now if it scales correctly and we end up about 200-300 damage at the end of the game, I think that would be reasonable. But at the moment its scaling is bugged. Now how does the bug work, you ask? Well, first you have to understand exactly how BuddyBot's summoning system works and the sentinel turrets work as well. So you have 3 slots, slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. These are taken up every time you place one, so you can have up to 3 turrets out at once. Every time you place a sentry or a BuddyBot into one of those slots, so naturally if you have none out and you place one, it goes into slot 1. If you have 1 out, it goes into slot 2. If you have 2 out, it goes into slot 3. Every time you place one down, it basically adds a percentage of damage to that slot. Now the reason the leveling up makes a difference is because as you level it up, that percentage increases. I assume what happened is that there is just somewhere in the code where it's looking at the wrong thing, and instead of looking at upgrade level and then scaling the damage just using that, it's applying the upgrade level every time you place it, so you can get infinite damage using it. Now the reason I said in the video that it scales up, that I scaled that up for 8 hours, is because I sat in base camp placing BuddyBots for 8 hours. Just to showcase how ridiculously high it can get. But let's use this in a normal one, because people are saying that I'm wrong and using it normally you don't ever see 600 damage. So I'm going to be only using BuddyBot just to prove a point kind of thing. But even if you're using this regularly, like every room, every other room, you're still going to see very high numbers, and a lot higher than you should do. So you see at the moment I placed 2 down, they're hitting 22 damage at the moment. Okay, it's not ridiculously high, that's absolutely fine. But what we'll do is when they die, that's 1 dead, that's 2 dead. If I place 1 down now, it should be doing increased damage. Those are 21s. Need to wait for them to die again. Place it down. So the last one was 21s, now it's doing 23. So you see it's scaling up damage, even just by me placing them down here normally. Now I'm probably not going to get S in this run because I've just missed a couple of railbots, because the triggers for them are really easy on this and I was avoiding damage. But there we go. I'm not trying to have an amazing run, I'm just trying to prove a point. So right now we're not like spamming it, we are using it when we're in combat, we're not trying to get ridiculous amounts of damage from it like I was in the 58k video. Here we go, just using them as you would normally to take aggro and to deal a little bit of extra damage. And we're already up to 27 damage. So you should be able to tell already that this is going to be scaling quite quickly. And all we are doing is using it as intended as a turret when you place it to take aggro. I'm actually going to leave that doing some damage in there. Go get my free fantastic item. We're going to go for stapler. And there we go. Boss have cleared out some enemies for us and we can carry on fighting. Obviously I have favourite weapon as well, and the main reason that this is actually stronger on Buddybot than it is on Sentinel is because Sentinel still doesn't scale very well with a lot of your perks and your items. It doesn't take into account what you have for the most part, and a lot of them just don't work. Buddybot also comes guaranteed and has innate guarantee of burn damage, or well, not burn damage, so just elemental damage in general. How much damage we're at to now? We're at 40 damage. So it's almost doubled its damage already, and we haven't even finished one level yet. And all I'm doing is placing it and using it to help clear rooms like you would turret, like you expect to be using it. And honestly, I feel like I've already made my point, but just to see how high it will scale through just generic use, we are going to take this run to the end. No, I don't expect you guys to be watching at all. I expect you'll probably just skip through to the end, because that's what I would do. It's probably what I should edit the video to do, but I just want to showcase that there is no shenanigans. So I'm not going to edit it, because otherwise people accuse me of doing some other shenanigans to make it scale higher. I say the damage will also be higher than what you might expect, because it will be scaling with our perks, and we will take perks as you would doing a normal run to benefit it. So elemental damage increases, we'll take damage increases, crit chance increases, and so on and so forth. Now let's take shutdown. This way the burn damage will be killing things a bit sooner. This one here. Oh, didn't put down very well, but there we go. There we go, we're at 52 damage on that one. So really, this is hitting about as hard as a normal weapon would be hitting if you were left clicking. So the fact that this is on top of your ability to left click, it gets a little bit silly. And you see I didn't place it while I was in the safe zone there. I didn't intentionally try and stack any damage up. I am only using it when I would be in combat, using it in a normal situation. Now one thing that I am doing, and I am being a little bit conscious of, which might be stacking the damage a little bit higher than when you guys would do it in a normal run, is I'm intentionally never trying to get the third slot. So I'm intentionally only ever wanting 2 out at a time, because otherwise it scales slower. So I am like intentionally slightly altering how I would maybe use it normally, but not by a huge amount. Just a case of not pressing right click every time it came out. But even if I did right click every time it came out, it would still reach very, very high damage. It's just slot 2 would end up suffering, and most of the damage would go into slot 1. It doesn't really matter what we take here. I'll take credit card just so I can left click a bit more. Credit card and stapler. Come in, plant both down, so our javelins for the crits. And how much is it doing? 59 and 67 damage. So that's absolutely fine to have on top of it. And the third one is hitting for, what, 16 damage still? Okay, it's hitting for 31 damage. So you can see that slot 1 is more than double in fact of where the base buddy bot would be if we hadn't been just scaling this hard. So 30 damage, reasonable. 70 damage a shot, not so much. Increase weapon damage by 10%. The thing is, I don't even have to build a gun build here for it to get this far. I could also be scaling into a javelin build and then be abusing javelin damage on top of abusing the buddy bot. Can't take little wheel. Neither of those are going to benefit me. Yeah, you can get some marking. And then I'm going to level up the weapon. Put it down. Get my javelins back by using my main ability. And not only is it doing this damage, it's also drawing aggro, and they have a shield when they're first put down, so they take longer to kill than they would if they didn't get a shield, because they have pretty low health. Now I'm only using burn at the moment because that actually increases the DPS more. It would probably be smarter to use shock, and if I end up getting a drum I might even roll them into shock, just so then we have even more AoE damage and better clear. There we go. Clearing it all down. So I'm hitting for 60 odd damage with crits right now. 32 without, 60 with. And my placed bots are hitting harder than I can at the moment. And they're hitting harder than a lot of weapons would be at this point that shoot as rapidly as they do. Sure, I'll take bag. You pretty much never reach reload point anyway. I'm not going to take the portal, because that's not part of a normal run. Look, there you go, that was what the portal looks like. That's where it spawns. Has a very low spawn rate. Okay. Execution's coming in perfect, just as we would want them to. Don't need any of that. Level buddy bots up more and carry on. Down, put the second one down. What damage are we up to? 104 and 92. And this is free damage. This is damage I don't really have to concentrate on. I just walk into a room and place it. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think having these turrets scaling is a bad thing. I just think having them scaling this much is a bad thing. They need a fixed scaling amount so that the game can be balanced around how much they can be used, rather than just being able to exponentially scale infinitely. Which, as I say, I'm fairly confident that the devs already have a fix in place and it's just waiting for the next patch at this point. Which should be very, very soon. And it'll be exciting to actually have turrets that scale, because for a very long time these turrets just haven't scaled at all, even with weapon damage. Which is how I came across the bug in general, because I was experimenting to see if they'd fixed scaling on it yet. Yeah, honestly, even at this point, I feel like the turret should be doing about half as much damage as I've managed to scale them to. And I'm not trying to scale them, I'm just playing as I would with this weapon normally. Sure, why not? Gamble first? Nope. One supreme crit, there we go. So then we can start critting with them. So one of them's hitting 130 damage at this point, the other's 118. There we go. I dread to think how much they're critting for. The other thing as well that why it's better to do this with buddy bots rather than sentinel. From what I can tell, sentinel placement doesn't have default crit values, so it doesn't have 2.5 crit, sorry 25 crit, 1.25 crit. It has no crit scaling at all, so even if you do manage to get auto crit to make it crit, it doesn't do any extra damage, where buddy bot does have crit scaling. Now we're not going to take the pepper. I don't feel confident enough in that I'm going to get above 40% auto crit for it to be worthwhile. Would get some very big numbers, but I'm trying to play as a standard run here rather than potential run. Excuse me while I sit down. Sneeze. So you see their third slot was doing 54 damage a shot. I think that's fine at this point. Something that takes aggro for you, takes a bit of damage, and outputs a little bit of damage, that's absolutely fine. 54 damage, perfect. They're all shooting with a shield, so they're not really doing anything there. And again, they're shooting the shield. This is one problem with summons at the moment, is they sometimes will target invulnerable targets, which is a byproduct of old coding, I'm pretty sure, where they used to target, you used to get shield bots and no buff bots. So the shield bot would go sit over something, you didn't want your summons targeting the shield, so it was programmed to always target the thing that's on top of it. But now the thing that's on top of it can also be shielded, so the bots don't have smart enough targeting for it. One's at 170, was that 200 though I just saw then? You think that's okay on a summon? Bearing in mind I could be doing very silly things like placing it and then just hiding. I think I'm going to be rolling these to shock with some of the items that we've got. I didn't pick up the tin can and I didn't pick up the sponge. We do now have Artishock, so if we do get the drum, then we'll be doing some nice AoE damage as well. Okay, now we've got auto crit. 166 damage, shooting shielded bots, so not doing anything. 345 crit just there from the weaker bot. 200 crit there. That's fine, right? We're not worried about that. I am going to just spam them out here, so we are leveling up the third slot a little bit and not worrying too much about just sticking to one, because the extra damage output and aggro will be nice at this point. Oh, they killed everything. Cool. If you're wondering why I'm doing this on Ranger, and why I do a lot of videos on Ranger, it's mostly because Ranger has really good just like gun enhancement builds where things like Commando and Elementalist and Engineer, and even Guardian to a certain extent, they have amazing gun builds, but the problem is their gun builds also use additional things. So like you have sparks, you have explosive reloads, you have other damage sources that are scaling up outside of the weapon. So often it ends up not being about what weapon you're doing and more about the additional damage that you're doing. And it's not to say that those are bad things. I love them and I really enjoy using them. But it doesn't showcase the gun. It showcases how good the gun is at triggering other effects. Because sparks benefit from a really fast firing gun. Sticky explosion on the Elementalist scales off anything that shoots 1 to 2 shots a second because of its fire rate. Explosive reload just works on anything that has to reload every 4 or 2 seconds if you take the upgrade. Ranger is just a really solid bet on it. All of its upgrades are buffing the weapon, or the weapon's crit, or the weapon's auto crit to make it into a critting weapon. So it's a very, very good tool or bot to use to gauge the actual weapon strength rather than a build strength of a bot. Because yeah, I'm not trying to take away from what the others can do with weapons. They can do phenomenal things with some weapons. But yeah, as I said, it's not necessarily about how good the weapon is, it's just about how good the weapon enhances the build triggers. Ranger isn't even my favourite class either. Like, I'm not biased towards Ranger or just want to be playing Ranger. Engineer's my favourite. If I could make unbiased weapon builds on the Engineer, then I would do. But it always turns into how good the weapon is at hitting multiple targets, how good the weapon is at spreading conditions, how fast the weapon shoots. Because that's the benefit of... that's what benefits the Engineer the best. So yeah, most requests to look at specific weapons on will end up being done on this character. Because it's just, yeah, the very good baseline. May as well pick up 10% fire damage. I know we said we were going to reroll into shock. I don't want to reroll yet. And now that we've got 10% fire, there's less reason to. It's only 10% damage difference, but yeah, sure, I'll take a boombox. Why not? Do I have enough fantastic backups right now? I have Stapler, Jetfire, and Boombox, which are all fantastic items. That's not me saying they're good, that is the classification in game. They are fantastic. Right, so in the next room, when Buddybot disappears and this refreshes, we're going to do a damage check. What numbers are we hitting now? What was that, 300? 309 with one. I don't know what the other one's hitting because I haven't seen it hit anything yet. So 309 damage without crits. So I said we'd probably reach about 600 damage. I think we're fairly on track for that. Now we'll grab energy weapons because we are using energy weapon. Now I do suspect that the main reason people aren't seeing these kind of numbers is because they're not leveling up BuddyBot. They're just using it as a distraction, because they're not taking into account how much damage could be done if they were putting them out. Which is kind of why I didn't want to release the information on this bug too much. Because this does generally lead to a playstyle where you can make the end difficulty quite easy. As I say, even without spending 8 hours farming the damage. Go. Done all the side areas, we've done every room, so just exit now. Hard rush crit, so we'll now be reaching 40% crit chance. If we end up getting a poppy, I might regret that I didn't pick up the chili, but we're okay. There you go, 670 damage on a crit. So we've already reached the 600 point mark. I did say 600 damage as a base though, not as a crit. So I won't say that I've reached the benchmark that I said you can with this weapon until we reach that, really. None of these really benefit us. Walk in, place 2, jump up here. This is just a safe strat that I do sometimes with gun builds as well, that aren't strong enough to clear the area quick, because it gets you out of that chokehold of the first area. And as you saw there, BuddyBot's cleared it up fairly easily, and it's to the point where I can almost put 2 down in one room and then be clearing the next room. And when we go back through that first area, a lot of those will be dealt with without us even taking many shots into it. Throw this down, 1, 2, and just leave, and we'll clear the next area. And again, I don't want to see this gutted. Like, I like BuddyBot, I like this playstyle. I just think it needs to be doing almost exactly half as much damage as it's doing at every point at the moment. Like, if you're pouring this much into a build and specifically only using favourite weapon and buffing up the damage, yeah, it should be doing okay damage. But it shouldn't be doing as much damage as a sniper build or something like that. Let's just throw that down. And again, we're just going to leave that, clearing that room. 700 crit damage. That's going to one-hit most bots without us being there. Okay, and now we've got 2 again. We'll trigger was, spear, and then we'll put 2 down and we'll leave. I don't fancy Jigsaw. And there we go, they cleared up this area for me. We cleared this area. How many bots did they leave in this spot? 1 turret again. So that's all there was for me to kill. This guy's just following me around. So yeah, they literally cleared an area without me having to be there anymore. Props 20% crit chance. There we go, 900 damage crits. It's fine, it's critting almost as hard as my javelins at this point. Now, Uncle Jim's not a great fight for this because of the way it's programmed, but what we can do is we can place them here and they go up here. And yeah, that's 1.2, 1.4k crits. Again, without me hard farming damage just playing them. So Buddy Bots probably just killed that boss quicker than most people will kill it on a standard run. Now it's ignoring like the super boss killing builds, but even then, that was a quick boss kill. We're running out of things to actually put levels into that will buff these. Shock damage. Nice, so now we've got... We do have Hot Dog, but we're coming up to the boss, so we probably don't really want to rely on Hot Dog anymore. We have Art Shock and Eggplant, so that's 30% damage increase rather than 10%. Yeah, it's time to roll into Cryo. Not Cryo, sorry, Shock. There we go, it just about gave me Shock. And you see there when you're re-rolling, the only thing that's changing is Elemental. And this also is a further 10% damage increase to Shock effects. There we go, place 2 down. 900 to 1.1k damage shots. Take that guy down. Just try and keep our passive high for crit value. Rotating around, throwing them down. So what you have to bear in mind is now that I've rolled off burn, I have lost effectively about 30% damage. Because that's the bonus damage that burn does as standard. So that's 30% damage, which is the same amount I'm getting from my items. So overall the DPS has probably stayed about the same, but the difference is now that they can also stun, which just makes my job safer. None of this really buffs Buddy Bot, so I will just make my javelins execute earlier. So that even though I haven't really spec'd into javelins to be doing a high amount of damage, they can execute at 30% on standard enemies. Which if I crit with it is about the same as just... That's about how much health they have left after I've thrown it anyway. Let's drop one down here because there's a lot of enemies. Damage check. If you could hit. There you go, 1.1k still. 500 damage. So I may end up being about 60 damage short of where my prediction was, which is a bit of a shame. But that's pretty damn close for just a random number plucked out of how much I assume you could scale them on a standard run. And this is without farming them once. So I haven't sat and farmed them, I haven't placed them when there aren't enemies around or anything like that. Let's see how much damage we're doing to Iris. I'll do a couple of hops forward, place 1, place 2. 591 damage. So by the end of this fight they'll be doing 600 damage to it. Over 1k damage crits. So I'm not attacking this at all, this is all Buddy Bot. They do get distracted by the turrets, but they actually take those out so quickly that it's actually useful. So what are we doing? 521. So you can see it's not quite on. I didn't even have the correct crit chance because I wasn't using my javelins. So yeah, I think max at 250 damage, 500 odd damage with crits would still be very, very strong and fun. I would love it. It might even be too strong at that point. I'm doing almost twice that, which is just not on. It shouldn't work like that. Get the mark down, throw a javelin. There we go. Over 2k crits with buddy bots. Not farmed up. Oh, and it's taking one of the hardest shots for me. There we go. He hasn't targeted me with one of the hardest attacks to avoid in the game. Crits back. So yeah, just by using buddy bots, you are using the glitch. And if you are using them fairly sparingly and not leveling them, then yeah, sure, maybe you won't see the damage increase to quite this scale. But if you're regularly using them in every room and you're leveling them, you're using the glitch. Now, I'm not going to say, how dare you use the glitch, how dare you use them in a regular way, but no, not at all. And I wouldn't suggest trying to abuse them like I did in my 58k video, because it's boring. Someone has abused them and hit over 100k already, but that's fine. The thing is, these are scaling higher, so if you are using BuddyBot and you think that they are fine at the moment and they're making your runs easier, and it is going to go away very soon. So be aware of that this isn't going to stay. It's not going to carry on making it, so if they are your crutch, you might want to look out. Cheers guys, have fun.